It is week 16 of the NFL regular season. The pressure is on for teams that are still trying to clinch a spot in the NFL playoffs. In 2 weeks, we're going to find out who are the teams that will be competing in this year's NFL playoffs with a chance to go to Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta, Georgia this February. So before we get to the Week 16 picks, I just want to kind of lay out an outline for what's coming up on the channel. So this is going to set us up till the end of the year. So first up, the NFL Week 16 predictions, which we're doing today. That's going to be accomplished today. And the Peach Bowl prediction video, the Fiesta Bowl prediction video, the Rose Bowl prediction video, Sugar Bowl prediction video. Those 4 New Year's 6 games that aren't in the playoff semifinals. I decided to do them separately this year, which I don't really know how that's going to go, but I decided to just do them all separately. They'll probably be all maybe 2 to 3 minute clips. They probably won't be that long. So I decided to do them separate for that reason, because they're going to be pretty short. Not too long. Shouldn't be anything more than 4 or 5 minutes. So after that, the first semifinal matchup between Notre Dame and Clemson, that'll be a separate video as well as Oklahoma and Alabama in their college football playoff semifinal. So the semifinal predictions video for the college football playoff, those two are going to be separate, just like each and every single New Year's 6 game. So that's 6 different videos this year. Those will be pretty short too. Probably shouldn't be that long either, but we'll see what happens. And then the Week 17 NFL predictions, which we will do around this time next week. Maybe earlier than that. Maybe Monday night this week. And then we'll do the NFL playoffs assessment. For those of you that haven't watched before, that are new to this, what I've done for the last 2 seasons is I've done a power rankings for the NFL playoffs. The 12 teams that are in the playoffs, I rank them from 1 to 12 on likelihood of I think they'll win the Super Bowl. This might be a little bit different because each team can win the Super Bowl. Sometimes just being in it that could make you win the Super Bowl. So, the NFL playoffs assessment, that's going to be at least the last thing I have planned. And if I have time, or if there is time, a 2019 NFL mock draft. But I'm not calling it 1.0. I'm going to probably call it 0.5. That's because 0.5, it just means it's going to be the teams that did make the playoffs. So, for example, just picks 1 through 20. That's pretty much the gist of that. Is if there's time, that's why I put the mock draft last, because a mock draft isn't really that big of a priority right now. But what is priorities is the predictions videos, because they're much further away. So that's kind of the outline just for what's coming up here on this channel. That should take us into 2019. So pretty exciting. So next we have the Week 16 NFL predictions. And last week, 7-9. And I am not proud of that whatsoever. I really thought I was going to respond this week. I thought it was going to be a good week. But 2 bad weeks in a row. I mean, that's happened to me at least 2 times this season. This is at least the second time it's happening. But there's 2 more weeks left for me to finish strong. And I'm hoping to do that. So the NFL season this week, it begins on Saturday with 2 games. The Washington Redskins versus the Tennessee Titans. And I think the Titans, they keep their playoff hopes alive. I think the Titans, they dominated last week against the Giants. And I think they're kind of rolling in the right direction at the right time of the season. Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens and the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this could already be the game of the week on a Saturday. Because the Ravens, they're still competing for that AFC North. And the Chargers, they have clinched a spot in the playoffs, but Kansas City could slip up again. And if the Chargers win out and the Chiefs lose 1 more game, then the Chargers would be in position for the number 1 team in the AFC. So the Chargers still have something to play for. Despite clinching a spot in the playoffs, they still have something to play for. They could end up stealing the number 1 seed in the AFC if the Chiefs slip up. But I'm going to go with the Ravens here. I just think the Ravens, they have been doing pretty solid ever since putting Lamar Jackson at quarterback. And I think this is starting to become an unbelievable playoff run. In fact, I'll even say this right now. It won't surprise me if we see the Baltimore Ravens in Atlanta this February, based on how the Ravens are playing. It doesn't, just because you win a certain way, it doesn't change the fact that you're still winning the game. In fact, I might put the Ravens towards the middle tier of the 12 teams in my power rankings. They'll probably be in that top 6, but we'll see how it lines up. But I think the Ravens will win this week because the Chargers, they're coming off an emotional victory over a division rival in the Chiefs, which they haven't beaten the Chiefs in quite a long time until last week. So I think the Chargers, I think they're still kind of feeling the emotions of that win, and I think the Ravens are going to kind of catch them. I like the Ravens. And Cincinnati and Cleveland next. In Week 16, the Cleveland Browns still have playoff hopes. The only 3 people that thought that at the beginning of the season were Baker Mayfield, LeBron James, and Hugh Jackson. Those are the only 3 people that thought the Cleveland Browns were still going to be in playoff contention at Week 16. And the Browns, they will win for pride at this point because I think in the slight chance they had of making the playoffs, which I think is 0.8 or 0.9%, the Ravens had to lose at least 2 of their last 3 games. And with the Ravens already winning, it eliminates Cleveland. But they'll still win for pride because the Browns, hey, if winning, just being on a 3-game winning streak right now for the Browns, that's pretty exciting stuff. I'm sure the Cleveland fan base will at least take a decent end of the season. If the Browns won out, I feel like the Browns fans will be happy with that. I feel like that just feels like a playoff appearance for the Browns. So I think Cleveland wins this one. Next, we got Tampa Bay and Dallas. The Cowboys just get shut out by the Colts last week on the road. But I think being back in Jerry World, I think the Cowboys get the win. Because it seems like the Cowboys play better at home than they do on the road. It's like that for most teams, but the Cowboys just looked lost last week. And I think that the Cowboys being back home, I think they're going to be more comfortable, kind of be more in their atmosphere. I like the Cowboys in this one. I like them to take care of business of probably what should be a tanking Buccaneers team. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. I'm going to ignore that Skype call for right now. The Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. I'm going to take the Vikings to keep their playoff hopes alive. Right now, they're hanging on to that 6th spot in the NFC wildcard race. Well, they're hanging on to that 6th seed right now. And I think the Vikings, I think they take care of business against Detroit. Although it's kind of tough to beat Detroit in Detroit, I think the Vikings will still get it done. Next, we've got the New York Giants and the Indianapolis Colts. I'm taking the Colts this week. I think the Colts, they're still in the hunt in the playoffs, and I think they're going to kind of keep their hopes alive a bit. I'm taking Indianapolis. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars and Miami Dolphins. Why do I have to pick this game? I'm going with the Dolphins because, I don't know. I don't know. Next, Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. I'm going with New England, even though the Patriots have dropped 2 games in a row in December, the first time this has happened in 16 years. I just think that the Patriots will get back on track eventually. And what better way to do it than beating up on a divisional rival? Am I right? New England. Next, we got the Green Bay Packers and New York Jets. I will take the Packers, even though the Packers should be tanking for a better draft pick. Next, we've got the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles kept their playoff hopes alive last week after pulling off the upset against the LA Rams, 30-23. And I think the Eagles are going to do it again. I think Nick Foles might be the glue to the Eagles franchise. It could have been Nick Foles all along. I think the Eagles, they keep their playoff hopes alive again this week as well. I think the Eagles, they upset the Texans here. I feel like Nick Foles is kind of on a different level with Nick Foles than I think Carson Wentz. It just seemed that Nick Foles, he just tore it up in the playoffs last year. And I feel like it just shows how important the backup quarterback position is in the NFL. And in fact, this isn't for another day, but I'm not going to be surprised if we see a bunch of teams try to draft a backup quarterback early in the draft. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw New England, for example, draft a quarterback in maybe round 2. Because I think whether or not what happens with Nick Foles, if the Eagles somehow make the playoffs, despite not looking that good all season long. Well, the Eagles haven't really looked that bad. They've lost a couple of close games here and there. But it just shows that the backup quarterback is an important position. And I think Nick Foles will keep this Eagles team alive, as he is expected to start again this week. So I think they will keep their playoff hopes alive. Philadelphia keeps their playoff hopes alive. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, they need a win so badly. They started off 6-2 and they are on, seems like a forever losing streak, about 5 or 6 games in a row. But the Falcons, they should just tank, as well as there are reports saying that they're going to clean house. Well, they're going to clean house without cleaning house. They're expected to fire Steve Sarkisian and their defensive coordinator, Marquand Manuel. So I'll take the Panthers in this one, just because I don't want to pick Atlanta. Next are the LA Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to take the Rams to recover from these last 2 losses. Hopefully this is the type of game where the Rams could have a bounce-back game. The Rams did sign C.J. Anderson today. Maybe they're worried about Todd Gurley. Maybe they're worried about another kind of piece of the puzzle. But I'm liking the Rams in this one. I don't know by how much, but I think the Rams will get the W. Next are the Chicago Bears, the Bears versus the 49ers. And I will take the Bears. It should be kind of simple, I guess, even though the 49ers have won 2 in a row. They've beaten the Broncos and the Seahawks in back-to-back weeks. So who knows? Maybe the 49ers are capable of pulling off upsets. It just seems like once the 49ers are eliminated from playoff contention, they just start to get win after win after win. It happened last season when they made the move to Jimmy Garoppolo, when they were already eliminated from playoff contention. And they just tore off about 6 or 7 wins in a row. So it's just, yeah. Just seems like once the 49ers get eliminated from playoff contention, they start to win games, even though they should just tank. But they want to win games. And hats off to them, but I'm still taking the Bears. Next we have the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the New Orleans Saints. And the Steelers. What a performance by the Steelers defense last week. That's the best defense that I've seen out of the Steelers ever since they last won the Super Bowl. I think that's the best defense I've seen out of the Steelers. And they do have momentum. It was a win they needed. They needed that victory because they were on a 3-game losing streak. But they have to go on the road to New Orleans, where the Saints could almost solidify the number 1 seed in the NFC. And the Saints, they know what they got to play for. And I think they're going to get it done. Next are the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Seattle Seahawks. Pat Mahomes going on the road to the 12th man. Do the Chiefs play with a chip on their shoulder after losing in heartbreaking fashion 29-28 last week against the Chargers on Thursday Night Football? The answer to that question is yes. I think the Chiefs win. I'm going to say it's going to be a very close game. I think the Seahawks defense is going to keep them in the game for as long as they can. But unfortunately, you have Pat Mahomes on the other side. The Seahawks, they have statistically the best running game in football. And hopefully the Seahawks, to be smart and play, if they play smart football, I think they have a chance to win the game. But unfortunately, your defense can only stay in the game for as long as they can. And we kind of saw that. We kind of saw the defense. We saw that against the Vikings, about how they completely dominated. We thought it could have been the rebirth of the Legion of Boom, but they just lost the 49ers last week. And I think the Seahawks, I think that's the last thing you want to see after losing a game that you probably should have won, or you could have won, or, well, more like you should have won that one. That's the last thing you want to see is Pat Mahomes on their side. And I think the Seahawks can keep in the game. I think the running game is going to be a factor in this one, especially just pounding the rock and keeping Pat Mahomes on the sidelines. But unfortunately, he's going to have to go on the field eventually. And I think when he comes on the field, I think it's going to turn into touchdowns. I like the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a very close game. Probably a lower scoring game than what you're thinking. I think it's going to be kind of a grudge match, like a 24-20 type of game. I don't see this being in the 30s or 40s whatsoever. But I like the Chiefs. And finally, Monday Night Football on Christmas Eve. The Denver Broncos and Oakland Raiders. Why do I have to pick this one? But I'm picking the Broncos, just because I feel like it. And next we have that's it, actually. Never mind. Just scratch that. Picks against the spread this week. Baltimore plus 4.5. Carolina minus 2.5. Philadelphia minus 1.5, and Kansas City minus 2.5. So those are my 4 picks since the spread this week. 1 and 3 last week. Hopefully these last 2 weeks we can finish strong with straight up and against the spread. So those are my picks this week. Comment your thoughts on my picks down below. Also comment your picks down below as well. And I will see you next time.